would always kind of feel like stuff was watching me.
Like something wrong was going on there, something bad happened.
These cows wouldn't really move. They would scream like they're being in pain.
All I could think of was like a minotaur in my mind. Like I saw it standing down there.
This thing jumps up onto my truck and starts beating on the hood and starts shaking my truck, trying to get in the doors.
It was the most inhuman human scream I've ever heard.
I mean, I remember seeing red eyes.
Just looked like shadows running beside us.
And the voices followed us all the way down the trail until we got back to camp.
There have been a couple times where I've woken up and I've actually had my tent moved some 5 feet.
The next thing I saw was something that looked like a minotaur.
It looked like there was another person out there.
The story behind Camp Willett is an interesting one. It's steeped in scouting legend and lore, as well as the different activities and things that have happened up there over the years, some of which are easily dismissed as hearsay, and others have happened to people that I'm very close to and know. And then I have my own individual experiences as well. Anyone, I think, who really wants to see more of the history can look into the council's website and find a lot of the history of the camp. As far as the other things that happen up there, there's always been something at Willett. I've been up there as a scoutmaster and as a scout multiple times, and there are areas of the camp that I will not go to. I hear things, see things, smell things that really just shouldn't be there. That you wouldn't think, I think is a better way of saying it, would be there. We're far enough removed at that location where there's no one, no residents, no cabins, nothing in close enough proximity to have, certain smells, odors, sounds. And these have occurred when there were full camps in session. And these have also occurred when there were just 1 or 2 units or troops up there.
I guess from the most recent times, I think I remember just kind of feeling gross at the camp. Just if we were out, like I would always kind of feel like stuff was watching me. And especially like in the middle of the night, occasionally we'd wake up at like 3 a.m. just like hearing a noise or something.
And the staff area was around kind of near the central building, which was the administration building up there, which is basically a tin shack. I didn't feel very comfortable being behind it because maybe for 30, 40 yards back, it was pretty flat and then it dropped down into a canyon. And for some reason, that canyon really bothered me a lot.
It mostly took place on this strange dirt road. We would go fuck around over there because, it's a surreal place. It was cool. It was kick-ass sometimes. But it would get really eerie. Like this atmosphere would take over. You could everyone knew it, but you wouldn't really say anything at first. But it was like a miasma would roll in, of just some uncomfortable feeling. And it would mostly occur in that area, that weird little road.
So this is the tree tunnel. This is the area where most of the activity would start and stop. Obviously it's not the same as it used to be because all the trees have fallen or are dead, but before, this canopy used to kind of link together where this whole thing was shaded and it would look like a tunnel.
The lower road is what we ended up calling it over time, is the low road below the main camping area. It goes just on the west side of the camp, and it is between 50 and 100 feet below the main level of the camp. That particular area has always had some challenges, weird interactions, both with scouts who have approached me at events indicating that they thought that they were being followed. And I had gone down and checked it out, much to my discomfort. There have been accounts of people being chased through that area. When I go down there, it is noticeably colder overall compared to whatever temperature is at the main part of the camp. And it's noticeable, some 15, sometimes 20 degrees difference. There have been instances where I know I have been watched and followed through the camp. At the bottom of the camp, this would be the, looking at it, compass points on a map, this would be the northwest section of the camp. There is the original road which crosses the creek, and that is on a shared easement with another property. That lower road all the way over to that property's boundaries has always been troublesome. There have been a lot of best stated negative energies.
In terms of the layout of Willett, if we use the Quonset hut as the central point, the northwestern side is where the old man's property is. The northeastern side is where there was a big field. That's where they would have most of the games and events. If you were to veer off from the left to the western side of that field, that's where the fire pit would be, where they would hold ceremonies. Directly west of the Quonset hut, that's where that path was. The path that we went down and we had most of our experiences on. And there are actually two paths there, one that goes down directly to the old man's property and one that kind of takes a long way around and goes down to his property. That's the path that we normally went down. All the campsites were on the eastern side of the camp. I believe there were a few camps to the northern side that were not being used, and I've never been there, but I've been told that that is where a lot of the activity, a lot of people feel uncomfortable, and those are the campsites that are closest to the old man.
However, on the north end, there is some old campsites just across from the campfire bowl that have not been accessed for many years. Those campsites, no one will get near. I have not met a single scoutmaster, leader, advisor, scout, anyone who will go anywhere near that road. Everyone stays away from it. They describe it as not feeling safe. I'm not sure what's further down that road, and at this point I'm not inclined to find out.
I'd walk alone in the dark, and I just kept getting an eerie feeling. And it wasn't like, it was more of I'm being watched, but it wasn't like that type of feeling that I've gotten, when I know there's an animal around, because you can kind of sense that sometimes. So anyways, yeah, I just had an eerie feeling when I'd be in certain areas of the camp, and I like something wrong was going on there. Something bad happened.
As a leader and as a 2-time scoutmaster for Camp at Camp Willett, I have had several scouts come to me from different units indicating that they are feeling, seeing, hearing, perceiving in some way, shape, or form. I know that there's one particular unit that has had several youth impacted, but the other had scouts come to me have been scattered individuals, not necessarily a group of the scouts. A lot of the stories that have been told to me remain consistent and the same. The odds of the large body of scouts, I believe it was 302, there's no way that they would have been able to share those stories en masse across the camp. I mean, even if they did have a large amount of friends in other units or scattered through the rest of the troops during a major event like Camp Ree. So it does lend credence to the individual experiences. They do echo, they do sound very similar. So yeah, there's been several different scouts from several different areas of the county who have been at Camp Willett who have experienced these things.
I remember there's something about, in that area there's these cows, right? And I mean, cows are kind of sad creatures because they're really stupid. And when you look in their eyes, you can tell that that is a stupid animal. But these didn't look stupid, they looked dead. Like, they had no life behind their fucking eyes, right? Like, just a dead fish on land. And these cows were everywhere sometimes. And they were the most uncomfortable thing. They'd be close to you, and it's like, it doesn't feel like a cow's next to you. It's just some weird shit. But, those fucking cows were there.
There was also a cow which I think it was a cow at least. It just kind of sounded really hurt. Like, every single year we went, there was this cow, like, noise in the same area, and it just sounded like a really, in pain cow. It was just bizarre every time.
These cows wouldn't really move. They would scream like they're being in pain. And I've heard healthy cows move before because I've been around healthier cows. These ones were fucked. Not to mention we found a dead one crushed under a pile of rocks. Yeah, we found the whole skeleton.
So the first year we were ever here, this is the main spot, I guess. We had found this trail. We went down that tree tunnel that's just around the corner past that gate. And we're hiking around the woods, and we started to get bored, and we had these sticks. So we started hitting the side of this cliff here. And you can actually see, like, where we had done all that. Because that big hole right there and up there and that hole over there, like, they're all still here, even though it's been like 10 years. And part of the mountain is eroded away and stuff. And, and as we were hitting the mountain, down behind us, we heard this cow. And, we didn't really think anything of it because there are cows all over the place up here. But as time progressed and we just kept hitting the mountain, the cow noise started to change. And the best way I can describe that is if you were to take a knife and start stabbing the cow and it just starts screaming in pain. And then that sound started to morph into a roar. And I don't really know how to describe the roar because I haven't heard anything like that before. So by this point, we were all standing right here looking down into the ravine here.
So we were just bringing the dirt down. It was just kind of something we were doing, and we started hearing that cow. I think that was the first time, and we all just kind of felt like uncomfortable all at once, if I remember correctly, and we just kind of left. We didn't really talk to each other about it. We just left. We ran out. Jeffrey was kind of left behind, but.
And when I was hearing that noise, all I could think of was like a minotaur in my mind. Like I saw it standing down there. like this huge, like 8-foot creature with like short black hair, these long horns, and it was looking up at me. And I was sitting there for a while, and I just remember thinking in my mind, like, yeah, that's what's making this noise. And when I turned to my friends, they were gone. Like, they had all started running back to camp, and they were already around the corner. So at this point, up along the cliff here and back in there, I started hearing like these whooping noises. You know how like Native Americans on like TV or whatever, like I don't know if they did that in real life, but they would make calls to each other while they were hunting. Like, that's kind of what I was hearing. So at this part, I started running down that path, and I kept running. And by the time we got to the tree tunnel, I turned around, and there was this shadow figure that ran into the center of the road. And so I turned around and I kept running. And when we got back to camp, I asked the other scouts if they had seen anything, and they said that while we were running down that tree tunnel area that they saw shadow people running beside us through the trees. And I didn't see that, I just saw the one that was behind us. But needless to say, they didn't want to come back up that year, so.
It looked like there was another person out there for, you know, somewhat. To me, I don't know if it's just because I was freaked out, but it definitely looked like there was someone out there. That's all I remember.
That time we were running, we saw some figures in the woods, I think, or I did at least. Just looked like shadows running beside us, like right through the canopy. It was that's what I remember at least.
And I've thought about that a lot, and thinking about that noise, especially years ago, it used to scare me a lot, and I wouldn't want to talk about it or describe it really, or you know, every time I came back up here I wanted to find out more about it, but I was scared of it, and now I'm not now, because I feel like I've told the story so many times that I've like accepted what it was, I guess, even though I still don't know really what I saw down there. But it's yeah, it's weird.
As a advisor, leader, and an adult, you don't necessarily want your scouts waking up in the middle of the night, you know, having nightmares, night terrors. So you try to ease their minds a little bit, explain to them that what they're experiencing could just be in their head. It just could be that, you know, they're in a different or strange space. Their eyes are playing tricks on them. But as an individual, and with my background and my experience and my heritage as a Native American, I have learned that that is not the case up at Camp Willett. There's been a lot of stories that I've been told that I am not comfortable sharing because they're not mine to share. They were shared with me in trust. But from what I've heard in those interactions, there's definitely something at Camp Willett. As far as exactly what it is, I could tell you it's negative. I could tell you it's big and it's powerful. And it does impact the area around the camp. There are what some people would call game trails that are completely dead. Nothing grows anywhere near them. But it's too wide to be a game trail for any animal or any farm animal that either grazes or is up in that area. So I know that something is moving through there continuously. I couldn't tell you what it was.
Like I said, I only remember seeing that figure, but to see, I don't remember really seeing a lot. It was a really strange atmosphere though. And that speaks to me now. That clicks with me right now, actually, because have you read Dante's Inferno?
No.
Okay, in that book, it's two people going to the depths of hell, and around the first area of hell, the first demon they encounter is the atmosphere in that area that makes them uncomfortable, and then, that's Dante's Inferno, and that's a really important piece of. Some people consider it fiction, but in the demonology community, they consider it nonfiction. It's a really important thing to them. So, that just kind of clicked with me for the moment, that I don't remember really seeing anything that could be described as demonic, but I sure as hell felt some uncomfortable shit. Like I said, those cows, something was fucking wrong with it. And it's a stupid animal, obviously, but there was something much, much more.
Did you ever see the entity that resembles a minotaur? I know my dad mentioned something about it.
I've had individuals tell me stories of seeing what would best be described as the Greek or Roman figure known as a minotaur on the property. I have not necessarily seen, but through the shrouded images I was able to obtain, whether in my dreams or out of the corner of my eye, something that looked to be bull-like. The Minotaur was described to be a giant figure. Bigger even than me, and I'm 6'8", but I couldn't recall specifically its exact size or height. I remember seeing the large bull horns, Texas-style longhorn, if you wanted to relate it for imagery, top of a bull's head. Have I seen it myself? Not conclusively where I could say, yes, that is a minotaur. I have seen similar things, but nothing that I could concretely say that, yes, I did see that.
Want that water?
This is the first spot. Sure, I'll take some. This is the spot where we heard all the voices.
Crazy.
It's kind of okay. Okay, so the second year we were up here, there were four of us. It was Isaac, myself, and another kid. And we had come down the path here, and at this point, this was the farthest we had been, and we found this pond. It was full of water and had fish. It doesn't now. So we hung out here for a little bit, and Isaac and decided to go back to camp to get snacks and go to the bathroom and stuff. So they had left, and and I were here. And about 15 minutes had passed by, and we started to hear Isaac coming back down the path towards us. And another good while had passed, and they still weren't here. So I asked, I said, "You hear them down the path, right?" And the path doesn't go too crazy, it just curves a little bit around here. And he said yes. So we waited another 15 minutes, and Isaac still weren't here, so I mentioned it again. And the whole time you weren't able to exactly hear what they were saying. but you were able to know that it was their voices coming down the path. And that's when I mentioned it to again, that's when we started to hear the voices come from different directions.
It was really eerie lighting, the way that the sun came into the trees, and we began to hear what sounded like a lot of whispers coming from unidentifiable directions,
So not only were they coming down from the path there, but their voices were up there and down the path that way and back there and all around us, till there were about 100 or so voices just mimicking them.
Like humans whispering, like people having conversations really hushed is what it sounded like. But at a distance, very close, right behind you, in front of you even, it was very surreal. And he and I started to notice that, and we said something,
I just told him, let's just get up and we'll walk back to camp. And the voices followed us all the way down the trail until we got back to camp. So yeah, that was weird.
Isaac also mentioned something about seeing like hoof prints and hearing stuff walking around your tent.
We did hear shit around when we were camping at Willett. I remember on one occasion, it was me and Isaac in the tent, and we did hear a lot of foot traffic around our tent at night, and it sounded like people, like not some horrendous creature. It sounded like people, but still it was really sus, because it's not like, you hear it twice, right? That's someone going to the bathroom, taking a piss, obviously, but you hear it, 6 times from every corner of the goddamn tent, and you're saying, well, what the fuck's going on? Is he drawing in the fucking mud with his piss? Like, there's not any reason for anyone to be walking like that at night.
And would you say that like these things were happening really late at night when people shouldn't be awake, or would you say that they were like happening closer to your tent or farther away?
I mean, it was in a suspect range to the tent, from what I remember. These footsteps occurred in a suspect range, something weird, some unnecessary distance.
I'd woken up at 3 a.m, just kind of with like the repetitive sound of something brushing across the tent, just like right by my head. And when the sun did come up and we went outside, my tent was kind of surrounded by hoof marks, and the hoofs like led from the trees, but they didn't start like in the trees. And then they didn't like when they went back, they didn't really have they just ended at some point. They didn't like go anywhere. It was just bizarre.
As far as being able to track the entity that I noticed in my dream specifically, the area where I was camped, or my vehicle was, typically was on drier soil. I did notice that the plants around my vehicle had been trampled. Because most of them were dead, I could not be for sure that it happened during that night, because there's no way to tell as far as the break goes. There's no real live plant to assess to see how long ago it may have been broken. The night my tent, however, was moved some 5 feet, I'm not necessarily a small adult. I range between 280 on a good day and 300 on a bad day. But I did notice that there were some, not necessarily prints, but it showed that someone had physically, or an entity had physically kind of dug in their heels trying to drag my tent. Because there were these little pock marks in the dry dirt that just wouldn't be there with normal walking. It looked like someone was playing tug of war or something and really dug in their heels trying to move my tent away from that space where I was. As far as prints, I did see some prints down below on the low road when I had scouts come to me complaining of being followed or feeling like they were being followed. It wasn't any size of an animal print that we learn and recognize as scouts. It wasn't anything native to the area, and it wasn't anything domesticated. I couldn't even begin to describe what that print looked like except to reach the fantastical or the mythical, talking about like a werewolf kind of a print. It looked like it had some canine features, but was much too large, but not quite as big as a human's footprint. And I thought it was strange. I didn't really think anything of it at the time. And there have been other times where I've seen what looks to be like a hoof print from like a cattle, farm animal, domestic animal. But either much too large or much too small. So it's an actual hoof. It's not a cloven hoof, like not as small as what you'd see for like a deer, and not the traditional horse hoof, which is that curved shape. But it was much larger than I thought it should have been.
On the hoof tracks, so you said that they led to somewhere and then they like stopped?
It's kind of like okay, so you know how like if a bird just like appears or like drops down and like walk around and then fly again away, you see all the tracks it left. It was kind of like that, but they were hooves. They were just kind of some leading to the tent and some leading away, but not like trailing off forever to where the animal goes.
So it would just like disappear and reappear in places?
Yeah, it was probably like maybe 20 feet of track just kind of looping the tent. Like that's it.
Yeah, it looped the tent?
Yeah, just kind of like they were just around the tent. Not completely, but like where I heard the stuff.
And then gone.
Yeah, it just kind of walked away. It was around 3 a.m. It's normal time stuff like that happened.
Were the hooves like, how big were the hooves? Did they look like horses?
They didn't necessarily look overly large or too small. Like I don't think they were a cow, but I don't think they were like a goat either. I think they were a little bit bigger, maybe like a deer's size, but not completely. They were kind of not the same roundness, I guess, is the word I'd use. The fold-up shovel, that was like from one of our first times going. I had brought in this fold-up shovel. We had gone out into one of the first times we found that trail. It's just this long trail, kind of in a spot we were obviously not allowed to be in, but we went down it anyways. I don't remember why we brought the shovel or what we were using it for, but when we first ran back, I left the shovel, and the next morning it was in front of, I think, Daniel's or his older brother's tent, just kind of in the dirt, I think, just right in front of it. It was just bizarre because I obviously left it and we were going to go back in the middle of the night, and I don't really think any of us would have gotten up in the middle of the night to go back alone just to do that. It would have been kind of silly.
Okay, so do you remember anything about Isaac's fold-em-up shovel? One that he lost in the woods and ended up in front of your guys' tent?
Yeah, it did. It was right there, staked right into the ground. I don't remember him losing it, but I remember it being there. Really weirdly.
Like,
Yeah, like straight up and down.
was it in front of the tent?
It was like over to the side, but like right there, like we could see that shit right in the morning. We're like, oh shit, there it is.
Regarding the shovel, it was planted like straight into the ground?
Yeah, just like if you just kind of stomped a shovel into the ground in front of someone's tent. That's kind of how it looked.
And then, do you know if anyone other than your like the group of kids that went down, did anyone know that the shovel was down there or know the path that you're going down?
Oh, I don't think any of those other troops were heading anywhere in that direction or anything like that. I think most of them just kind of stuck to kind of predetermined hiking areas and the main activities, I guess. I don't think anyone else was going over there, especially not anyone we knew about.
What about in terms of like any parents or guardians or even that old
No, I think every year they kind of roped it off with like the caution tape or whatever. Just like it's not for the scouts to use, but we would go around it every year, and to our knowledge, we were the only ones.
So it's reasonable to say that the old man that talked to you guys, he didn't know where your specific tent was?
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think that old guy knew where in the camp we were at all. Just that we left his property.
Yet the shovel was retrieved and placed in your campground where you specifically were.
Yeah. Unless someone else brought it in and none of us like noticed or remembered. It just kind of was in front of his tent in the ground there. I think that was one of the two things we forgot. We went back for the other one, and I think we broke it. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was Jordan's.
Yeah, it was Jordan's headlight.
We just threw it out in the woods because he was being a dick.
Yeah, he was being a dick, so we made him lose it.
Anyways, the last time I was up there, I was talking to one of the other scoutmasters, and I noticed he put his tent like pretty close to mine up near the road, and I was like, why are you way over here? Because I kind of enjoy being by myself. And he was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to be back over behind that. And I'm like, why is that? He's like, I can't really tell you, but it doesn't feel right. And I said, I'm with you. I totally understand that. We didn't go into detail what we each felt. So that was about the extent that I had with the talk with that scoutmaster at the time. And I'd known him pretty well. He was also in our OA group. And I didn't want to go into how I felt because I didn't want somebody to think I was crazy. I've had a lot of things go on in my life where I've known and seen some bad, crazy stuff. And a lot of bad experiences and really good experiences. So don't really like talking about that to people because if they hear that kind of stuff, they think you're crazy. Anything paranormal or anything like that.
Some of the nightmares that I have had as an individual, mostly as an adult leader while up at Camp Willett, take weird shapes. And it doesn't feel like separate entities. It feels like it's the same one. But everything from my tent being moved, quite literally moved, to the far side and down the embankment, which leads to the low road. There have been a couple times where I've woken up and I've actually had my tent moved some 5 feet in that direction. That was definitely something that did happen. The entities, I remember seeing red eyes. I remember hearing, the same thing it's probably associated with dogs' claws on concrete, walking around the perimeter of my tent, or walking around the perimeter of my vehicle. I have, again, not really being able to see shapes exactly, bigger than what people would associate with a normal farm cow, quadrupedal, shrouded in fog or smoke, dark, pacing, moving, gets closer, gets farther, and it never really goes away. I can wake up, I can go back to sleep, and it's still there. So I know it's not necessarily me dreaming or me coming up with something. There's something impressing itself upon my mind.
In what area of the camp were you at when your tent was moved?
The area that I was at when I had my tent relocated while I was in it, it was very, very early in the morning, long after the camp had gone to bed. There was not a single person awake when I did look out of my tent and realized that it had been shifted. no flashlights, and there was no lights anywhere on the property at the time. And there was not enough light coming from the sky. It was rather a foggy evening. So you would have had to have used a flashlight, a hand torch, or some other device in order to light your path and see where you were going in camp. But at the time, I was, we call it the Quonset hut. It's a building that was originally built by the Seabees. And it sits right about the middle of the camp. Behind it, just above the low road, is a clearing. And my tent was originally pitched between 6 and 10 feet away from the back of that building. When I woke up the following morning, I was almost on top of another tent, some 5 feet away from that towards the slope. So the fact that it came that far into the camp and up that hillside did alarm me, but it was not something that overly concerned me, as it had selected myself and not any of the other campers, and I was far enough away from the hill where should anything have happened, I would have been awake long before it happened.
One particular night, we had our call-out ceremony where they get the scouts that are going to be inducted into the OA. We all gather up on a hill, we go down, they have an award ceremony for the camp, because that whole weekend the camp is doing camporee type things where they're doing competitions and everything else. The culmination of that is Saturday night. They have a huge bonfire, and that's in this natural little tiny valley that's like an amphitheater. And to get there, there's two ways. The back way, which a lot of the staff goes, and by way of two little trails that kind of come down to the fire bowl, and you can kind of see each one. It's really like a natural amphitheater, and it'd be like going to the Hollywood Bowl. As you're walking down, there's two trails, they meet in the center, and that's where all the seating is just a series of logs going across, and it's set up like an amphitheater. And you're down there talking, and someone all the way at the top of the hill can hear you. So that's where they have their campfire and their award ceremony. Well, during that award ceremony, towards the end, is where the Order of the Arrow, they will have call out all the people that were called out. They get all their information. We give them their little packets of things that they need, get their names, phone numbers, and all that, make sure everything's set up. And then we send them back with their troops. And they usually leave last, and the OA guys are there, and the camp staff are there to make sure that the fire is tended to, taken care of, and put out. And so that evening we had a flag retirement ceremony. So for those that don't know what a flag retirement ceremony is, when a flag gets too old, tattered, or worn, the correct way to dispose of a flag is to have a small ceremony. It's folded a certain way, it's given the respect that it's due, and it's usually done by military or by scouts. Myself, I'm prior military, and to me it's really important that it gets done right. And that evening our OA group was selected to do the flag retirement. And when the fire, after you burn the flag in a ceremony, so it's not like being burned and desecrated, it's being honored and retired within the flames. And usually the next day, the kids that participated in the flag ceremony will get the little brass grommets. That's the thing that the hooks hook up to, and they will collect those, and they'll polish them up, or they won't polish them up, and they'll wear them either on a necklace or somewhere on their uniform to signify that, hey, that's what they went through. And it means a lot to some of the kids, because it's a very respectful, it's a beautiful ceremony when you put down a flag. And so that night we were doing a couple of flags, and when you put a flag in the fire, the fire has to be burned out naturally. You don't just throw water on it. Part of the ceremony is allow the flames to die out. So you can't just in the middle of the woods light a fire and, hey, it's 10 o'clock, see ya, I'm out. You can't. So what we would do is we'd have a couple of kids as fire guard, watch the fire, make sure no embers went anywhere, allow it to burn out, and usually a couple of kids crash out there, and they usually have an adult there. That evening, I was the adult who was going to stay with the flag and make sure that the embers went out and that nothing went on. That way I could put a fire out if fire needed to be put out, because we have water buckets and sand and other stuff, other tools there to put out a fire along with a fire extinguisher. So that night in prep of that, which staff usually walks down this long windy road from the main camp road, and it's off near a back parking lot that really not too many people except for staff park at. And so after everybody left, I brought my truck down, and with all the tools and extra equipment, because we always have it there, but I brought down extra stuff, and I decided, well, since these kids are going to be staying there, I'm just going to crash in my truck. And most of the kids at that point, we had 2 kids, probably about 18. Well, they were 18 and a 17-year-old, and they were like, hey, well, we're getting cold, fire's out, can I go back to my camp? I'm sure, go ahead. And so they took off to go, and I just figured, I'm already there, nobody's here to bother me, I'll just sleep here. So I was in the back of the truck kind of crashing, and it was getting a little chilly, so I decided to get in my truck. I got in my truck, and I had the windows cracked, so they don't fog up or anything. And I just, the whole night, I think another reason too, I got in the truck, but I just didn't feel right. Like, I just felt like I was being watched. But I didn't want to start up my truck down in the canyon and have it echo, because again, it's like an amphitheater. Anything that goes on down there, pretty much you can hear. So I just decided, well, whatever, I'm in the truck. I hit the locks on the doors, and I don't ever really do that when I'm out, unless I'm out by myself in the woods and there's nobody around. And at some point, I fell asleep and I dozed off. Well, it just, I don't know how to explain it, but I was awoken by what I thought was the sound of something snorting. And so I was like, that's weird, because there's cattle, it's a working cattle ranch all the way around. So I figured, well, that's weird, the cattle usually don't come down here when there's people down here. And I didn't see any cattle, so I was just and I heard another snort. And the next thing I saw was something that looked like a minotaur. Only way I could describe this thing, to me, it was like 8 feet tall. Had the head of a bull, the torso of a man, and the lower half of like a bull. And it makes no sense. No sense at all. We're not in freaking Athens, Greece. We're in Ojai, California. And I don't know of any legends or anything that has that in that area. So I was pretty scared. So this thing jumps up onto my truck and starts beating on the hood and starts shaking my truck, trying to get in the doors. And I'm just trying to get the hell out. Like, I am scared. I've never seen anything like this before. The thing was snoring and screaming and just like, so I hit the ignition and I started hauling ass out of there. I start going up the road, and it's a windy road, uphill, it's pretty steep, and I get about halfway up the damn hill, and there was a cow that just sort of wandered across the trail. This is one lane. It's not really a lane. It's a fire road, and it's wide enough for my truck, and that's about it. Other side is a steep drop down. And this thing just kind of came up out of the ravine and stood in the middle of the trail. So, like, I didn't know what the hell to do. I started honking. I was yelling, screaming at it. Meanwhile, this thing's coming up, gets in the back of the truck again, starts beating, trying to rip my doors off. And as it's ripping my door off, I woke up. And I was still down in the fire pit. So I was like, well, that's a bad dream. And I was getting ready to kind of get out of there, and I heard the snort. The snort that I heard in my dream, I heard. So, again, it's kind of like everything, like this just happened. And I know what's going to happen. So I start the truck. I start hauling ass up. I don't really see anything except for what I think out of the corner of my eye is this thing coming at me. And I'm hauling ass up the trail. And what do I see coming up out of the woods? A freaking cow. So it starts going up, and I recognize this cow. This is the cow I just saw, and not only that, it has the same numbered name tag. And for, like, if you've ever had like an animal at the fair or whatever, they put name tags, and they'll usually put a number or something so they know the person that owns the cattle knows that that's theirs. Like, this is number 52 or whatever. I don't remember what the number was, but it was the same number, same color tag. And I was like, this thing's not getting in my way because I'm not going to die. So I decided at that point I was going to go through the frickin' cow. I didn't care if I killed some rancher's cattle. And I passed it. It didn't get in front of me. And I get out of there because who knows what would have happened. To me, if that cow would have got in front of me, I don't know if I'd be here today. I really don't. So I hauled ass through the camp, and then I stopped kind of where everybody was at, and nothing was behind me. And so I decided, okay, I'm here. Nothing followed me up. I'm just gonna park my vehicle kind of where I would put my tent. And my tent was there because my stuff was in it. So I kind of parked near my tent because I was at that point wanting to get all my stuff, throw it in my truck, and get the hell out. But my scout troop was there. My son was there. But they were in a totally different area of camp. So I kept listening and listening and listening to see if the thing was coming up behind me, whether I could hear it going through camp. I cracked the windows more so I could hear. I didn't even want to get out of my truck. I really didn't want to get out of my truck. So I kept listening, trying to listen from the area that my son's troop was, probably another 100 yards in one direction. And I just kept thinking, okay, they're kind of in the middle of everything, you know. So I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night sitting in my truck. And when the sun came up, it was Sunday morning. I was getting all my stuff. And one of the scoutmasters was like, dude, what's the deal? I heard you hauling ass through camp and park. And I'm like, oh, nothing. You know, because I didn't want to say anything. So a couple days later, we had a meeting, and I spoke to the other scoutmaster, and I wanted to ask him what exactly was it that he felt and why he didn't want to stay where he was at, because I wanted to know. And he describes to me the same damn thing that I saw. He said, and he's Native American also, as I have Native American in me too, and he said that night when they were kind of prepping for the flag retirement ceremony, because I'm all over camp making sure this group's doing this group's doing that, this group's doing that, that some of the kids and himself saw people up on the hill, and our area here is mostly Chumash. And he said there were some Chumash spirits just seeing what we were doing. Because that place is obviously a family site. You can feel it. I've never felt bad in that area. In fact, most of that area, most of that camp, honestly, feels good. It has a good feeling to it. And you can go to certain areas and go, the family site was here. This was a family site. But on the other side of that canyon, opposite the road, going down towards the main road that is pretty much a haunted road, there's another ranch there. And everything there, to me, I didn't like. I didn't even like driving down in that area. Like, it was just dark. Even in the daytime, it felt dark. And it was dark. It was like darker than dark at night in that area. So anyways, I was talking to the other scoutmaster, an adult, and he was telling me that the kids saw the figures up on the top of the hill, and he explained to him, it was just, people watching over to see what we were doing, and that they kind of communicated to him to be safe. And I've always felt a good presence in that area, but not that night.
There's the campfire bowl on the north end of the camp. That's the main gathering point when any major camp is in session there at Camp Willett. That particular area is not necessarily negatively charged like the west and northwest end of the camp is. I've actually had some wonderful experiences there with scouts, doing guided meditations, reflections on their lives. I have witnessed myself, the best way to describe it would be remnants of the original native peoples of this area, standing on the hillsides, looking over and watching us, asking us questions, or me specifically questions about what is the symbols that we're wearing. As members of the Order of the Arrow, we have a white sash with a red arrow. It's typically worn over the right shoulder. And very clearly, I could remember having a mental conversation with an entity that was not myself, asking, what is the arrow? Why are you here? And discussing with this entity that we're here as members of the Boy Scouts of America. This arrow represents our charge, our direction, and our mission to choose the right path, to be leaders and achievers and guiders of the next generation. At which point the voice left my head, and I could see just out of the corner of my eye up on the hilltop someone best described as being dressed in Native American garb watching us.
He said in his mind, what he kept getting flashed was, he's like, this is going to sound crazy, dude, but like a minotaur. And I was like, holy shit. And he's like, yeah, it makes no sense, right? And I'm like, no, it makes no sense at all, because that shouldn't be there. There's no explanation for it. And he described the height, the way it looked, everything, and it was the same description that I saw, in whether it was a dream, whether it was a premonition, I don't know. So he said that's also in that valley, like it comes from there. He doesn't believe it's from this area. I don't believe it's from this area. I mean, there's so much going on. There's so many ley lines. There's so much lore of the area, but that's not there. I mean, I've asked several people about it. I even asked a few people at council, and either they really hadn't heard anything like that, or they denied that they knew anything about it. So, yeah, I don't know what it was, but I know what I saw and felt, whether, yeah, it was just real. Like, it was like, not just, oh, I had a bad dream. No, it was, I was there. It was there. And I knew what was coming because I heard it. That cow was coming up the thing.
One time when we were on a hike through there, which is this windy road covered by, like, I think they're oak trees, probably, or something. Just a bunch of canopy overhead, a lot of overgrown stuff. There's a collapsed house, I think, and then also, like, just there's been a lot of dumping of garbage there over time. Find some weird stuff, like mine carts, I think.
Almost like a landfill kind of thing that I think these farmers were using for garbage. I think that they were tossing it off the cliff, off their trucks, at the bed of the trucks. There's a bunch of just shit. And I mean, it was really surreal how it looked. I mean, it was mounds of what looked like broken houses and like mining equipment, bathtubs and shit.
So obviously right now this road is kind of destroyed after, 10 years of 10 years of something. Erosion. Yeah. But this, our third year here, we found some parts of an old winery down here where they were throwing logs and stuff. And we had started to build a little set over there. And I remember Isaac thought it would be a good intro to put a pentagram of lighter fluid and then light it on fire because this place was haunted or whatever.
I think I was putting a pentagram and lighter fluid in the dirt. I was probably doing that.
And as he was doing that, we heard a car or a truck coming from up around that corner there. And so I grabbed my little flip camera and I went off over here and I started recording the trees above us to kind of get like the sunlight coming through and stuff. Pretending like I was filming something else. And
this man comes in a red truck, and we're pretending like, oh, we're just gonna pretend like we're taking some pictures, because this guy's gonna be pissed. And he was pissed. I don't remember all what he said, but I remember he was pissed that we were there, and he's pissed that we were Boy Scouts. Apparently this happened a lot to this man. I think it was his property, but I don't remember what. I think there was a minor laceration on this guy's forehead or something, because I think there was a small amount of blood on his face, from what I recall. But he was pissed with us, and it was really strange. It seemed like he didn't want us over there. I mean, I probably wouldn't either, but it definitely seems pretty suspect, this guy.
Well, when that old guy rolled up in his truck, we were obviously pretty nervous, but just kind of felt like a stomach uncomfortable, like you just kind of feel gross inside. I remember feeling that like consistently every time we went. Like I would feel that gut, like, oh, this is like uncomfortable inside. I just remember that from him.
I didn't want to look at the guy, it was similar to the cows, to where this guy was on some weird dark energy shit that really turned me off as like a 13-year-old. I was like, get this shit out of here. I did not want him to come up to us, but he did, because we were on his property, obviously. But he was a fucking weirdo. Like I said, this guy's sus as fuck. I've been trying to say that the whole time.
When the guy pulled his truck up right here, I turned my camera around and we all faced him. This old man got out and he seemed normal, but like the air around him like felt really strange, like the guy wanted to kill you almost. And he got out of the truck and he started questioning us about what we were doing there and stuff. And at this point we thought he was just a scoutmaster that had come up. So we were like, oh, we're Boy Scouts, and we're just hiking around. And he told us that this was his property and that the Boy Scout camp ended at a gate we had passed a while down there. And so we asked him if we could keep hiking, and he said sure. But I remember he got back into his truck and he was stopped right before the pentagram. And he didn't see it, but it was really weird how he backed up and went around the pentagram to keep driving down the road there. So we packed up our stuff and we started hiking down the road to go further down to the pond.
And he had went down, kept going straight down the road, and then like 10-15 minutes later we ran into him again, coming like from the same direction he had originally came from. But that didn't really make sense because the road is like pretty substantial to go all the way around like a loop-de-loo. I guess right off top, that's what I remember.
And he came speeding back down, stopped next to us and said that we needed to leave, so we left. And that was our meeting with that guy. So, yeah.
He was really, really sweating when he came back the second time, too. Like, the first time, you know, he's working in the daytime, he's gonna sweat. But the second time, this guy was fucking drenched.
Yeah. You said you heard a primal scream?
From this guy. Alright, it's like some George of the Jungle shit coming out of this guy's farm area. On some weird shit. You know, why is he screaming like that? That's unnecessary.
Did the scream happen, did it happen after that guy let you hike on his property?
I think that occurred. I think the screaming sound occurred before we ever saw this guy.
Yeah, I think it happened like a completely different time we were up there.
Yeah, and then we just made the connection. It was fucking him. I did, at least.
Yeah, because it sounded like a guy. It didn't sound like a...
He totally fit the image. And it didn't quite sound like a scream of pain to me looking back on it, because I can remember it kind of clearly, I think. It was the most inhuman human scream I've ever heard. And we all started running after that, but I think we, without saying, deducted that he was what caused that scream. I think he screamed. This kind of large man.
You catch the noise on film?
Maybe. Oh god, that was spooky.
Isaac, did you hear that? You heard it? I don't see anything coming.
I know, that was scary though.
It was like, ah!
Yeah, I actually have a couple other clips. I had dropped a camera one time, right when the guy had came up the second time with the truck. I kind of forgot about that, by where we had all the other stuff was dumped, kind of like off the road into the ravine. There was like mine carts and stuff in there, and we were screwing around with all these gourds. And he pulled through again. That was the second time he came around, like 15 minutes after the first. And he told us to scram, but I have some footage from that. That one's damaged too. It's just kind of pointed up the hill, and you can hear him kind of speaking, and I think the audio was kind of distorted at some point, just kind of because the file was distorted, obviously, or broken.
The guy who owns the ranch down there, all I can say is there was something not right. I can't really elaborate more on that because I know the scouts were legally fighting over an easement and everything else, and so I'm not getting into any of that. But all I can say is a portion of that property just felt evil. Whether that was brought on by a previous owner of that section of the property down there in that side of the canyon, or whether it was from that other person, I don't know.
I never had the misfortune, personally, of meeting the neighbor on the lower end of the property near Creek Road. Again, that's the original road with the easement that we have access to coming up from Creek Road in Oakview. And I don't mean that in a bad way, just from the experiences that have been relayed to me in the individual experiences of scouts. I never had the misfortune of meeting that individual. However, it's different stories that have been told to me both by scouts and leaders of the behavior of the individual is definitely appalling. Leads me to believe, with the psychology courses that I've taken in college, that the individual is probably highly reclusive, probably mentally incapacitated or handicapped in some way, not fully functioning. One instance that was described to me by an adult is that the individual came flying out of his house stark naked and went running towards the fence. And there were scouts and leaders both present there. I believe that they were working on tidying up the road leading down to the easement. And he came flying out of his trailer, I believe they said he was in, his residence either way. Went running towards them, and of course the adults bringing the scouts away from the property line, and he was yelling obscenities the whole way. And then as they started to leave, he urinated right in front of them. There was another story that I was told where the scouts had gone down just to walk the road, which is perfectly fine and acceptable. We were still maintaining territory on the property of Camp Willett itself. And as they approached the fence line, he came out and urinated right off the front porch of his residence, right in front of him. It was just very much an uncouth and unsavory human being.
After we were kicked off his property, we went back to camp, and we showed the other scouts the footage of the old man. We were talking about how creepy he was, because it was really only me, Isaac, and Jonas. And we told them the story about how, he had come up, they were doing the pentagram, all this creepy stuff. Just everything about it was just odd. And we had shown everybody the footage, and they all agreed the guy was creepy. You could feel that when you were watching the footage.
Do you remember your camera, and do you mind explaining what happened to your camera when you were recording stuff up there?
So I had brought up 2 cameras. I had brought one kind of knockoff GoPro thing. It was kind of small-ish, but we were using that, and also a handheld camera. I had used them both kind of together before, and nothing's ever deleted between switching it between the two, but one of these times when we switched them or something, maybe everything got deleted, but I don't remember that happening until we were there. We recorded a bunch of stuff, and I looked over it before, and all of a sudden it kind of wasn't there. A bunch of the footage was kind of damaged. There's one video where it's just red, and you kind of hear some voices in the background. I'm not really sure what it is. It periodically appears and disappears in my saved files, and sometimes I can play it and sometimes I can't. Just kind of depends. It's weird.
And I remember going home and uploading everything to my computer, making sure everything was there. And a few months had passed, and I went to somebody's birthday party, I think it was, and the topic of ghosts has come up, and I was telling everybody about Camp Willett. The weird stuff that had happened there, the Minotaur, the voices, the old guy. And I had my camera with me. I took my camera everywhere at that point. And so I pulled my camera and I said, I have the footage right here if you guys want to see it. And I was looking for the video of the old guy, and it was no longer on my camera. So going home, looked on my computer, and that video file was missing from my computer as well. Just that file. Everything else was there except for the file with the old guy in it.
So the file doesn't play 100% of the time?
No, it's broken. Sometimes the file will show up on my phone or my Google, and I can play it, and other times it won't play, or sometimes it'll altogether just not be there. That's
really weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it keeps doing that, but over several years, it's on and off been on my phone, on and off not.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Like I tried to find it to show Kyle a few weeks back, and it wasn't on my Google anymore when I specifically like saved it to my profile and everything. So I can't find it. That's why I asked him to look for it, and he's like, "Nah, I can't find it." He said it just disappears sometimes. So
Say it is like a, because I've never heard of that before. Like a file specifically on Google disappearing. You know, because I can go back years from now when I like wrote something, I still have it. So maybe that footage has some sort of connection to it, supernatural possibly, and maybe it might sound crazy, but maybe it chooses who can watch it, if they can watch it. That's really interesting because I've never heard of that at all for any Google thing.
yeah, because that's like literally the only footage of like something actually happening. Because I got footage deleted off of all my stuff too.
Yeah,
so.
everything kind of just disappeared off of it.
Do you have it saved like to your hard drive on your computer? Is it only
I have a small laptop that I think most of the files I had originally put them on there, and I still have the original SIM cards.
does it play whenever you use the hard drive or the SIM cards?
I think a couple times it just hasn't, but normally it will if I can find it.
Okay.
But from everything else, it kind of just turns up and disappears. But sometimes I just can't find it anywhere.
Okay.
I don't look like horribly often, but when I do, that's what's up.
Yeah, one year we had come to this spot with an audio tape recorder, like a cassette on mono or whatever, because mono tapes pick up ghost voices more often apparently. And through the headsets, we were able to hear a bunch of voices like screaming off that way. And I remember there was this one scream that kind of sounded like E.T. from the movie, where he's like running away and stuff. So we thought that was kind of funny, but at the same time it was kind of creepy.
There's been voices when we're out hiking that I think some of us have heard, and when we recorded the audio with the or when you did that, when you brought the audio recording thing, we heard voices then too. They were off in the distance. They sounded pretty goofy, but we still heard stuff.
And we had hit record and everything, and me and Isaac didn't feel good about coming down here, so we sent and Daniel to go all the way to the pond and come back. And each side of the tape lasted 15 minutes, I think. And then you flip it, so it's 30 minutes, whatever. And we had started it just at the beginning of this trail. And we hit record. We were like, okay, here we are at the tree tunnel. We're going to start recording. And then we were walking down here. That's when we heard all the voices and stuff and all the screams. So when Daniel and came back, we went back to camp. We reviewed the cassette, and all you can hear is we're here at the tree tunnel, and then it clicks. And they were recording the whole way. They even flipped the cassette, hit record and everything, and for whatever reason that cassette did not record anything from the beginning of this trail on.
At first, it almost sounded like they were singing, but then it just went away, and I was like, oh, it's just bugs, maybe? Those forest bugs that make songs. I don't know how to describe it, like the singing of bugs, like the ringing, yeah. I think that's partially because Daniel was like praying the whole fucking time. So
I gave it to my friend to put onto a digital drive or whatever, and he called me later that month and said that the tape had disappeared. So we don't know where it is, but it's kind of the same thing always with these clips and stuff that come from here that have some sort of voice or figure in them. So, yeah.
was a kid, Willett affected me a lot. I was scared of the things that had happened up there. But I think that curiosity and that wanting to know why it was there and what it was stronger than that fear. I have a fear of the unknown. And I felt like knowing would help me conquer that fear in a way. So I kind of deep dived into the paranormal after that. I mean, ghost stories had always interested me, things that always happened to me in my life, and I had never really paid much attention to it until after Willett. And so I started reaching out to various paranormal investigators up and down the coast here in California, and various YouTubers who read ghost stories, true ghost stories, whatever, and different YouTubers who did paranormal investigations and stuff like that. And all the emails, if I had gotten emails back from those people, they all told me that I was either crazy or that they personally don't believe in that stuff and that I would need to find someone else to help them. It didn't make me feel great because a lot of people were blowing off my story and stuff and not giving me any answers, and even my own research, I wasn't able to find anything that resembled this sort of activity. Like even demonic activity is different, you know. And it wasn't until I moved down to San Diego for a year that I had met a few different paranormal groups there. One of which just taught you how to do different ghost hunting techniques and stuff like that, which was nice. It was really interesting to learn from them. And another group was, hey, come meet out with us, and we're just a discussion group. We tell our stories. We talk about certain things, and we'll discuss it. It was kind of like it was almost like a trauma group for ghosts, which was really interesting. And I thought, all right, cool. I'll go out there and I'll see about it. I'll scope it out. So I drove all the way out to this group and met in the back of this diner. I was the only new person there, so they kind of singled me out. They were like, oh, okay, well, what's your story? Like, tell us what you want to know. Like, what's the craziest thing that you got going on? I didn't really want to tell them the Willett story out the gate, but I had alluded to it while I was talking, and they kind of pressed for more information on that. We didn't have a whole lot of time, so I kind of just gave them the Spark Notes version. There was a priest there who claimed to be an expert on demonology and an expert in the paranormal and stuff, and he had approached me afterwards, and he said, well, I want to hear all the details of your story, so why don't you email me everything? So I did. I typed out the whole story. I emailed it to him. I said, look, if I can find any answers on this, like, that would be great. And he had gotten back to me, and basically what he told me was that it had seemed to him that I need to get psychiatric help, that I need to go see a psychiatrist or get checked in somewhere, because no sane person who had this happen to them would want to go back up there, would want to know the answers to this. That anybody who had this happen to them would stay far away from it, and that I should just give up on finding the answers to this. He also told me that what I had talked about goes against what he believes in his faith, in his religion. And that there are no things that are beyond demonic or beyond ghosts. And that because what I had said goes against what he believes, that I must be lying. And so, because I was lying, he was going to reach out to multiple other paranormal groups in the area, everybody that he knew, and tell them not to talk to me. I was essentially banned from all these different groups down in San Diego, cut off from my information line. And that that really affected me. Because growing up, I was never bothered about telling ghost stories. I know my dad never wanted to tell ghost stories when he was growing up, just because people would always call him crazy. And I said, I don't care if people call me crazy. If this stuff happened to me, if you don't want to believe me, that's on you. But to hear it from a priest who was a demonologist, someone who worked in the paranormal, and to have all these paranormal people, these people who worked in the field, tell me that I was crazy, that they don't believe in that stuff. People who were supposed to believe and help people who are experiencing these things tell you that you were crazy. It's a little different than just some random person on the street or some person you know that doesn't have these experiences. So I stopped telling that story for a long time. In fact, since then, that was back in 2016, I've only told this story maybe 3 times since then. There's a lot of people who don't know about this. And I kind of gave up on it for a while. It was a while before I decided no one's going to help me out. I need to do this on my own. And that was later in 2018 where I decided, you know what, I'm going to talk to all the people that were involved, anybody that I could. A lot of Boy Scouts told me no. A lot of people who knew people said they don't want to talk to you. I know that there were more Boy Scouts who had experiences up at Willett. I don't know a lot of them. They've kept it under wraps, I guess, because they didn't want to be called crazy. But a lot of the kids who were in my troop were willing to come forward and talk. So I figured, you know what, if I talk to all these people, if I do this video, if I go back up there and get evidence, maybe people won't think I'm crazy.
Have you heard any of the legends surrounding like Creek Road and Camp Comfort down in Ojai about all the ghosts they have?
I think I've heard a couple things about the Ojai area. Something about like some Ghost Rider shit with a motorcycle guy. Something about that I know. And then Creek Road, don't they call that shit Toad Road sometimes? And they say that it's like the gateway to hell. Straight up, they say that? Yeah, I've heard about that.
So, I was doing some like map searches for Willett to try and figure another way in, because one way is a 9-mile hike in, the other one goes through that guy's property, and it's probably like a 20-minute walk. So that's what we're gonna go.
Okay.
But his property is on Creek Road.
Really? That makes so much fucking sense to me now.
Yeah. So
That I believe that.
So
Yeah.
that whole area, Old Creek Road.
Okay, well then why didn't anyone from San Diego give you any credibility when you said this shit? It's a weird place. That makes so much sense now.
I think Ojai in general is a weird place.
Yeah.
It is.
Whenever I go up there, I always get an uneasy
I I go there exclusively to go to the cemetery.
But most of the weird stuff, like the Charman, all the legends on that bridge,
It's tied to Creek Road.
it's all right there in that little area.
Sure, yeah. I think all these kind of urban, just kind of spooky stuff. I think they could all be kind of intertwined in some way, I guess. I'm not really sure what the supernatural, I guess. Just a lot of bad stuff has happened in that area. I'm sure if someone was affected by that long term, like if they lived in the area, I'm sure that could have carried over into other accidents or other things happening, other events in that area.
With the adjacent legends and stories off of Creek Road, Camp Comfort, the entity that is described as the Goat Man, is it possible that that is related to, in any way, shape, or form, what's at Willett? I feel that it could be. I feel that the experiences that others have had with this other entity can and do echo similarities with other experiences had on Willett. As far as whether it is directly related, it's a possibility. It could also be that some people are using existing legend and folklore for putting words to their experiences. People are making subconscious associations. Not that that is incorrect, but it is the easiest way for them to deal with what it is that they're experiencing.
So the camp is about a mile away from Creek Road and Camp Comfort in Ojai, which some people may know. There's like the Charman, there's a vampire, there's a couple other things that go on there, and it's pretty much a hot spot for some paranormal stuff. We even, not too far from that, actually a mountain away in the city, is like between Ojai and Santa Paula, there's a place that they had something different, and that was something they call the Billywhack monster, which is kind of a Chivo man or a goat man, and that was supposed to be an experimental thing from World War II at the Billywhack Dairy. You know, I don't know how much I can't discount it because I didn't see anything like that, but that half goat, you know, I don't even know whether that's torso, whether that's lower half. Stories change depending on who you talk to. That was not what I saw. That was not what I saw. What I saw was something else that didn't belong there. Like, it just felt like evil, like pure evil. But in a way, it was like I was just seeing something ancient. So whether that really was a minotaur, I don't know. Maybe was that something that was conjured up? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense of why it was there. It's kind of out of place.
Do you think that that if you go back there, that now being older and having more experience, do you think that perhaps the atmosphere could, maybe if there are supernatural occurrences, could feast on what's now your fears and your repressed memories, maybe?
I think absolutely I could, if I were to go back now, I'd be a little bit on edge, if that's what you're asking, because it is a creepy place. And, you know, I haven't thought about it in a minute, and I think it would really bring some stuff back. Because let me remind you something. My experience in Boy Scouts has kind of taught me that it's a little bit of an evil organization, in the sense that you're just, a lot of what it is it's a total pissing contest of, oh, don't get me started on this. I could go on and on about how these older Boy Scout members that are like the men, a lot of them are fucking dicks. They love just shitting on these little kids. They love it. And then they do this, they think they're fucking macho, but really they turn these kids into little pussies sometimes. And then they're like, oh, you're not square enough, you're not a pussy enough. And it's like, this is a retard organization. It's on some evil shit sometimes. So that's bad too. And I think that's why they chose Willett, because it's filthy and they love the fucking filth.
So you think that the Boy Scouts is a pissing contest of like masculinity?
Not only that, it's on some backwards shit, because it's like to be masculine, you know, to be manly, but it's like they make you do pussy shit all the time. It's totally backwards. And like I said, it's these old men who've been doing nothing else, and they just love making these kids feel like guilty.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that contributed to the experiences beyond the normality.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of energy at these events, that it's a really bizarre energy, like really weird shit was happening constantly.
We got like hundreds of people there too, so.
And I mean, in the morning, yeah, we'd show up with flags. It was strange, and no one fucking acted like it was strange.
So kind of on the same kind of question you asked, would you be willing to go up there again and stay overnight?
I think I would, yes. I would love to. I'd be more than willing to do that.
Any particular reason why, or just because?
Just because, you know. I mean, I like weird stuff. I'm alright to get a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. Especially for the sake of closure. I feel like I get a little bit of closure. You know, I haven't been there since.
I think I might be willing to go up and stay overnight. I mean, I'm older now. I might be able to handle it a little bit better, obviously, and I'm obviously curious. I mean, I don't think too many people go up there still, so it'd be interesting to kind of see it even more untouched and a little bit more wild, I guess. It'd be cool. I'd be interested in that for sure.
When asked if I would stay up there as an individual, alone or with a small number of people, I feel that I could, with proper measures, be safe, be protected, not necessarily have too many problems or concerns. If other scouts were to go up there who were sensitive, who were able to understand or feel what's happening at that camp, I would highly recommend safety in numbers. I wouldn't say go up there with a couple of friends, pull out your Ouija board and have a good time. I would encourage them to go up with the entire body of their troop and to camp relatively close to each other, especially if they're sensitive. I would, have to probably think about it a little bit more and make the necessary preparations to stay up there alone for any length of time outside of a major event.
I would go up again in the daytime. I would maybe stay there again in certain areas with a huge group. I would not go there with less than maybe 20 people and stay overnight. Because I have a feeling that even though in the area where I felt safe, in the safer, good feeling areas of the camp, to me that thing would cross that boundary. And it was almost like when I got up that hill, like it couldn't go past a certain boundary. And that's kind of the way I felt. It's crazy that like 20 yards was like night and day the way it felt, safety-wise for me prior to that and after that. In fact, I used to ride my mountain bikes up that area all the time, and I have friends that still ride mountain bikes up that road and up towards the back way to the camp, and they've seen a lot of crazy stuff up in the fire roads, and a couple of them won't go back at night because we used to ride day, we used to ride nights up there, but now they strictly ride days up there. because they've seen a lot of different stuff out there.
Everyone sees the ghost hunter, the paranormal experts, the pick your particular poison on the Discovery Channel or the Paranormal Channel or whatever you want to call it. Everyone thinks that these things don't happen. They think that these things are fictitious, that people are making them up. The spiritual energies, physical interactions are all Hollywood hype. You know, they've watched too many different movies like The Exorcism or The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Constantine, they don't see these things as actually happening. Hollywood magic, if you will. The same mentality leads these individuals to play with Ouija boards. Because of that, they are inadvertently putting themselves in a position that can be compromising, not for their physical well-being, but their emotional and spiritual well-being. Not everything that happens in these areas is exclusive to what the cameras can see or hear, or what the individual is experiencing in the physical world. Many of the entities or energies that exist around us in this world have been here a lot longer than us. And because of that, messing with them can bring adverse effects into a normal person's life. My recommendation overall would be don't mess with things that you don't understand. There's experience and other things that you cannot get from Hollywood, that you cannot get from reading in books. A lot of people who work with these energies, whether it's exorcists from a church or anything else, have had years of experience. And they deal with those things accordingly. When it comes to checking it out or seeing if it's really existing or really happening, leave it alone. The old adage is don't raise what you can't put down. Same thing goes if you play with fire, you're going to get burned. There have been enough occurrences, enough experiences that I've witnessed at the property itself that would advise me in well-informed decision to tell everyone, don't mess. Don't play with it. Don't go up there and see if you have the same experiences. At worst, you could carry something with you for the rest of your life that you'll never be able to explain. At a minimal impact, you could get yourself seriously hurt. For your safety, leave it to the professionals. This is not something that you can do at home.
I was setting this up with Jordan.
This is all poison oak, dude.
I'm getting images. Cow turned into this roar. And yeah, ready? Check this shit out. This shot's not bad. Huh. Damn, dude. Dude, that's crazy.
Look at it from this side.
The fire burned through this?
It's really good.
Right. Okay, so these are all the campsites. So Pat, there would be like hundreds upon hundreds of tents all in this little area here. And down there, this is where they'd have all the games and such.
So you're saying this is where boys can safely pitch tents and play with each other?
Pretty much.
Probably has it closer to. I was shooting porn too early.
Don't want to get into it.
When you said you can't imagine them on spiders, I imagine an entire avalanche of spiders right now down that hill.
Tetanus is groovy.
Tetanus in your boobie.
Oh, what shattered this metal? What the fuck?
I don't know, man.
Okay, I'm rolling this camera for no particular reason, just to kind of set the mood. We're here in the building. I have this this device, the SB7 spirit box, which goes through radio waves to let the ghosts and whatnot, the spirits, manipulate the waves to create words and such. And then I also have a little EVP recorder, which is just a voice recorder, and we'll try to capture voices on that. We're not going to do live playbacks, I don't think. Maybe we will, if I can figure that out. But yeah, we're going to get that started.
Forgot my crucifix at home.
So what do you guys want to start with? Just a regular EVP, or do you want to do a spirit box?
I really don't get it.
What do you think, Pat? Alright, I want to try this out.
At the same time.
Because this would just be picking up the you know?
But what if that's the way they want to communicate? It sounds like speakers.
Yeah, so this is what it does. You ever seen the ghost shows and stuff?
That's hokey as fuck. How much money did you lose on that?
$50?
I think those are hokey. This is very genuine.
Yeah, they're legit. They're actually like
People count them as evidence. That's why I bought it.
They use this shit in Ghostbusters.
So anyways,
Yeah, it's not as old as EVPs, but it's genuine. You want, if you kind of tease these things in order to it will show up at a higher frequency.
yeah. So basically, what they said to do was use an FM instead of an AM, because the FM it goes at like a different frequency or whatever.
And it has more basis.
Yeah.
More pop radio.
So is anyone here right now? Did you die here? How did you die? Is there anybody here that would like to communicate with us? You can use the radio waves to manipulate what you're going to say. I don't know, this is my first time using this thing.
Because I keep hearing no.
Yeah, I heard like hello and then a bunch of no's.
Yeah, it was just like little, but it was all the same voice. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, it was very similar. But we can always go with the oldest method.
What's that?
Scribe.
Oh, you guys are gonna
It's scribing, but I'm gonna scribe.
Okay, do you mind if I record that? Let's see. So what do you do with the scribe?
You just watch and interpret. It's really not flashy or interesting.
So you just look at the smoke in there and you try to figure out pictures and such?
It's like a crystal ball, yeah. I'm probably much more experienced than the both of you. So.
I'm gonna turn this on.
Jeff blowing it.
Huh?
Jeff blowing it.
What do you mean?
Blowing it. I think the most manipulations by us. So what do you see in our manipulations?
What do I interpret this as? Well, it goes down in the center, and when I think it's going to continue going down in the center to send me a message, it goes all the way to the side. So what that would tell me is that whenever I'm trying to get something out of this, it's trying to throw me a loop, trying to confuse me, which in itself says a lot to me.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm not really able to get anything really says a lot. Because even in my own home, I get a lot. case.
So, do you think that the Minotaur protects the Boy Scouts?
I highly doubt that.
Implore me. Pretend it does.
Okay.
What would it do?
If it were to be protecting Boy Scouts, I think that it might go after those who are, trying to bring dishonor. If that's really what that's about, but I'm highly doubtful. I think it's more something older than that. Something that's been around the block.
Okay.
But I came in with many prejudices. A lot of preconceived ideas.
I have no preconceived ideas.
I know you don't, but I have.
I really do hope something exists. I've talked to my dad for weeks and got nothing. I feel abandoned, so I implore things to come to me, and nothing happens. So, yeah. It's weird.
Well, we may very well not get anything tonight.
We will see.
But
I've been told this is a ley line of some sort.
It is Creek Road.
yeah, totally. With all the stuff that happens on it.
Imagine if someone walked in right now and be like, what the fuck is going on?
Say this all again.
Said it. In fact, at one point my eyes were playing tricks on me. And back when we first went camping here, and it caused us all to flee. One of the times we went running in the night, and it was right after I received an injury to my groin earlier in the day. So it was tough to run.
And this is what you saw?
Well, I think so, but I was a kid, and my eyes, I think, were just playing tricks on me in the dark. When you become startled, or when I become startled, I retreat back into my mind sometimes, and you think of the situation.
But this is the image that's popped into your head now, and this is the image that's popped into your head before.
Yeah, his face. I wanted to portray it as thinner, of course, and there's lots of curly hair, and these front set horns, and beard, and then a large, almost star of hair protruding from the crotch area, with almost equine legs. That's typical Seattle, but more menacing to me.
So what you're saying is that this thing is like a demon, but isn't a demon.
If I were to classify how I feel about this thing through all my readings, is the word demon has kind of really been skewed around. So to me, you could call almost anything that's spiritual and isn't a ghost as a demon, really. Back then, the word for God was actually demon. So, to call things demonic, I would say yes, but not in the sense that you're thinking. But a demon of somewhat malintent, yes, but not necessarily a hell demon, as you'd classify it.
Okay.
But definitely in that vein, of hatred, degeneracy.
You want to know what's really interesting though? Is that when people describe the Minotaur thing, the thing that they see, they describe it exactly the same. That it's in the same vein as demons, but it's not. It's something different.
It's absolutely not from hell. It's certainly, I think, is feeding off of a lot of degenerate energy. I've come to notice, and that's why I've kind of calmed my tone down, is because I don't want to give way to that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the hatred that's brewing in that farm over there has kind of amplified it. And I think ourselves, we kind of amplify it by fear-mongering, and especially when we had an encounter with the angry gentleman who I'm pretty sure is a degenerate. I think that kind of thing really feeds off that, and that's where it comes from. Is not only is it a spirit, but it's manifesting in that energy. Yeah, what's up?
What are the slaughterhouse numbers for this farm? Because I want to know how many cows die here.
Probably a lot.
We came across those bones right
then
over
we
there.
can talk about a minotaur that way as a metaphysical outcry of the cows.
I wouldn't say it's a metaphysical outcry of the cows themselves, but rather the pleasure this guy probably derives from killing the cows.
So you don't say it's the cows trying to
I'd say
fool us and tell us that this guy's bad?
I'd say it's definitely just
Because cows are quite peaceful and they have no way to get out their anger, so...
Yeah.
that's they are considered, higher than humans in Hindu culture.
Yeah, I'd rather go live in India and stop for a cow and just wait for it to cross the road.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's the energy of being able to oppress an animal so easily and exert so much hatred onto it, with almost no, there's nothing coming back on this guy, and he's actually making his whole life off of killing these cows, and I think he gets enjoyment from it. I think he likes being nasty to these animals because there's no repercussions except for the suffering, that exists in his mind afterwards, because I probably couldn't live with myself after, I wouldn't get much rest, which only further amplifies these things. But, I mean, it's all speculation.
That's what I dabble in. Suturing speculation.
You found it?
Night shot plus.
Alright, I'm gonna do...
Night shot plus.
Should I do the radio waves or the voice?
Neither. Just talk. Get yourself relaxed and into the situation first, then do whichever one you feel like this area would receive the most amount of attention. Okay. What are we doing, Jeff? I think feeling this one. So let's do that. So this is EVP session 2 at the Cow Noise place. And what time is it? It is. It's a good question. 8:25. Yeah. It is 8:25. It is pitch black out here, other than the moon. Okay. That was just a animal walking up on top. Sorry, walking up on top of the mountain. There's just a road here. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to us? Is there anyone down in this ravine here? Are you the one that's haunting this place? Do you live here? Did you put yourself into my mind? Show me what you look like? Hear that off into the distance over there? Yeah, I heard it over there, behind you, Pat. And then there's an animal up there.
Down there, I heard some.
You heard stuff down there?
Towards the beginning of it was actually continuous movement down there and wrestling in with leaves.
Yeah, I can kind of just see something weird looking, like just out of my view.
I think it's just the gate.
I think so too.
It does look a bit menacing.
No. Man, I don't know how to do this stuff. Is there anything that you'd like to say?
I would avoid to riding out this way because they do pick up the camera.
Oh. I didn't know that. This is my first time using it, actually.
Yeah.
And I'll stand way back here now.
Is there any questions you want to ask me?
If there's anything you want to say, now is the time to say it. Why are you here? Are you trying to harm people? Is that you? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's it. Let's see what there's done. That you all good? Pat,
Oh, I heard the creature move down there.
did something move?
No, I assumed I listened to an animal get down behind this road that I'm at. I stared it down from what I assumed, and it continued downward there.
Yes, you're right.
Just make sure we look behind us every once in a while.
Things present themselves differently. Things present themselves differently.
I'm not used to seeing stars, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I like stars. What?
Things present themselves differently.
What do you mean? What are you feeling right now?
You know, I'm starting to see these things everywhere.
What kind of things?
Oh, I mean, it was really uncanny. The formation of the branches when they were doing the EVP on that tree near us. It just looked a bit like two horns to me. I tend to find those things everywhere.
Okay.
You know, meaning where it's not really necessary.
Right. Pat, how are you feeling? Huh?
be out of here in a little bit. We're exploring haunted woods. You can't really see. Hold on.
And then you gotta have a catchphrase at the end.
Wow.
Like, let's giggity go, guys.
Check it out. You can't see anything because this camera is... What?
That's your catchphrase.
That's my catchphrase? Is what?
Let's giggity go, guys.
Giggity go? No,
Where
my...
am I going? That's your YouTuber catchphrase for your urban exploration channel.
No, my catchphrase is...
I hear the dead watering hole. I don't know about this. Probably the spirit that's angry about the dead watering hole. Depends about it. Alright, well, isn't that like a thing sometimes, like drought beans or something? Yeah. All then. Fires usually get rid of demons of some sort for a while. Let's just chill here. EVP session. Stand beyond the barrier.
Stand right here.
No, stand beyond the barrier.
You don't stand right here, that'd be so smart.
Okay, I'm gonna stand right here. How about that?
Yeah. Perfect.
Alright. So this is the EVP session part 2. We are at the pond in the middle of the woods that is now empty. Is there anybody here that would like to talk to us? Why are you here? Did someone cause you to be here? That was weird.
It's okay.
No, I felt a tug. Like my stuff. Are you down there behind me? What is your name? Are you good or evil? Are you here to hurt people? The fires that came through here, did they destroy your home? Are you not as powerful now because of those fires? You got anything? You got anything?
No.
Pat?
Yeah, this is what the tape recorder sounds like.
Huh?
This is what the tape recorder sounds like.
What?
I'm just right here next to it.
Oh.
That's it.
Do you have any theories on what is going on up there?
guess I don't know if I have a particular theory like about what's going on up there, but from stuff we've heard and information that has been told to me, I guess, I think there's just like historically just some kind of spiritual dubious things going on in that area over and over again, and it just happens to be unfortunate. It's like concentrated or something. That's what I think.
I mean, I could list off a million things, but truly I don't have any concrete idea as to why the fuck that place is that way. Not a clue.
My theories, I don't have any. I've done the research. I've called the historians. I've talked to everybody I could, and nobody has anything. In fact, I didn't get someone who actually listened until 2019, probably 2020, I think it was. Into the Fray is a podcast. Shannon LeGros, she actually read my story on one of her podcast episodes. She actually talked to my dad a few times about the stuff going on up at Willett and various other things.
When it comes to Camp Willett, it is on ancestral Native American land. That much we know. I don't know the sacred nature of that space. It does not seem to be a graveyard. However, a lot of rituals, traditional Native American rituals, seasonal rituals, wartime, peacetime, even their dances and other things, were oftentimes held in higher elevations. Give you more access to Father Sky, Mother Earth, the things that surround you. Animals typically shy away from major encampments, so when you want to really celebrate what's happening with the earth, you would go off into the mountains. We know that there was at least 1 or 2 encampments up there. Adjoining properties have had arrowheads, pottery, other relics discovered on those properties and sites. I'm not sure how much of Willett has actually had any of those discoveries occur, but we do know that it was a very active Native American presence. As far as contributing to the entities and energies that everyone is experiencing, I mean, it could have been something as far back as the 60s, the 50s, people experimenting with what we would call old religions, Druidism, for example. There's a couple of areas here in our foothills that have had Druidic influence and put upon them, and you can find those and you can tell. It could have been something where one foolish scout decided to bring a Ouija board to a camp out, inviting something in. I can speculate. I'm not sure with any degree that it was brought in recently. I'm talking within the last decade and a half, maybe 2 decades. It's been there a lot longer than that. But as far as its source of origin and how it got to be there, I'm not sure.
I really believe it is a spiritual type being. I don't know whether it's a protector being for whoever conjured it up, but my gut is somebody conjured it up and was using it for their bidding, and it was feeding off of either the person that conjured it up or it was feeding off of other people. Not physically feeding, but spiritually feeding.
I don't think now I really have that drive to get answers that I did back then. I've kind of accepted that whatever's going on up there, I am never going to figure it out. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to know what it is. I don't know why it's there. I'm not going to know why it's there. I don't even think I'm ever going to go back. But at least I'm getting the story out so that if some other kid has had an experience, they're not alone. And I know other kids have had experiences up there. And I know what it is to feel alone on something like that.
So, do you believe the stuff happening there is paranormal, or are you kind of skeptical on the entire thing?
I like to doubt it a lot, but I don't think about it too often, you know. But, I mean, I'm 50-50. You know, I'm certain there's paranormal stuff that goes on there. I'm 100% certain of that. But to say we experienced any, you know, I'm 50-50 on it. I'd believe it if it was true, and I'd believe it if it didn't happen.
I definitely believe that area has some supernatural ongoings. I mean, if it was proven that there wasn't, I don't know how completely convinced I'd be that there wasn't anything going on there just from what I've experienced and felt. So I think it's definitely possible that there's some spiritual stuff going on there, paranormal.
If you have been up there and you've had these experiences, you've experienced anything up at Willett, whether it be strange voices or an odd feeling or something as extreme as anything you've heard so far, you're not alone. And I'd like to hear your story. So let me know. Comment, email me. I'd like to know. That's it.
Jonas, you want camera? Nope. Too bad, you get camera.
Isaac, you want camera too?
I want your camera.